Well, we have a treat for everybody here today. We got Chris Prefontaine. You know him from a previous episode, but Chris, I really appreciate your time. We're going to start things off by calling people to a free strategy call that you've been so generous to offer our listeners. Head over to smartrealestatecoach.com/action to sign up for that. And that's definitely something for everybody to take a look at, especially going to your website, because I know there's a ton of free content there that people should definitely take advantage of. But really appreciate you being here with us today.
You bet. I can't wait to dive in, and it's great to see you again.
So I really wanted to tackle a few things with you because, with the whole lockdowns and COVID and everything, there's been kind of a surgence and thought about how to, you know, create some passive incomes for some of the newer listeners and to some of the real estate investors out there. And one of the low-hanging fruits, or at least is perceived low-hanging fruits is that seller financing associated with selling properties. And I know you're an expert in that. So I'm hoping that you can give some actionable strategies and techniques to our listeners today for them to get some of that mindset kicked off.
Yeah, I love buying on owner financing, and we niche it down, as you probably recall, we niche it down even further within owner financing, and we look at properties that are free and clear, Jack. That's our niche, because if they're free and clear, presumably they didn't need to pull money out, right? With COVID and everything else, they're in good shape. And we structure longer term deals with them, but we do it with principal only payments, super lucrative. They get their price. As long as we get our term, we get massive principal pay down. So that's how we do it in general.
Sure. How did you run into this niche again? Like, can you remind everybody, that is a pretty significant niche to find those people that own the properties free and clear like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, what sparked the whole re-engineering of our business was the unfortunate crash of '08. I mean, if you asked me during the crash, hey, from 8 to 12, hey, Chris, how's it going? I'd say terrible, and I don't want to ever be here again. But that caused us to re-engineer the business to buy everything on terms. And in that world, the owner financing niche is by far my favorite. There's about, a third of the properties in the United States that are free and clear, a third. Whether I'm off a few percentage points or not, the fact is that's a big number. And so it's a big pond to fish in.
I wouldn't have ever guessed a third. That number is extremely high. So do you pretty much get these houses just in your backyard, or are you doing this nationwide now? I think you were kind of staying more locally the last time you and I talked.
Yeah, so our own family company, myself, my son and son-in-law, Nick and Zach, we do it locally, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Connecticut. However, we have students now a lot more than last time we talked. We call them associates all over North America, most of the United States, who are in our program, whereby they are in coaching with us. But we don't just send them off with product or consulting. We're actually in the trenches doing deals with them and revenue sharing up to a certain number of deals, which is 10. And that way they learn that the interactive way, Jack, right? It's the best way to learn. Interactive coaching, like on the fly coaching, doing it with them. You can't get a better environment to learn. So yes, we are now doing them all over the country, 25 or 30 total deals a month. Out of those, the owner financing probably represent maybe a quarter of those deals, but those are like 6-figure deals, profit wise. So a quarter is great.
Yeah. So, and how do you handle the other 3/4?
Lease purchase or subject to financing, existing financing.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
So let's start at the beginning then. Like, if somebody is looking for a property to do this on, where do they start? Like, what's the marketing look like?
Okay, so there's a couple tiers here. We call expireds, or we have our virtual assistants call expireds for sale by owner and for rent by owner. That usually generates plenty of leads in someone's, like, let's just say 50-mile radius. And in those, you will run into free and clear properties. However, when we get a little bit more down the road with our students and they've got a deal or two under their belt, we can then start niching the fourth category, which is just going after the free and clear. And we do
Sure.
that by simply tapping into our software, our CRM, FreedomSoft in this case, or PropStream, but FreedomSoft is the main one. We've private labeled that and have all of our systems, our data, our workflow in that. So when students get that, it's plug and play. I mean, I'm talking about agreements, forms, legal documents, everything is already built in when they get it. Pretty cool system.
Oh, sure. And they can find that information on your website too, right?
Yeah, we have a free resource center where, so anything we use, we put in the investor resource center. They can literally go, oh, what are these guys doing these days? Where are they getting their leads? Where they, it's all there. Who does their accounting? Everything is there.
Right. So once they find these properties, it sounds like you're doing a lot of cold calling directly to these
The
people.
virtual assistants do. Yeah, we've got a team of virtual assistants that are trained. They will do the initial call. They will find out if the seller is somewhat open to hearing from one of us, one of the investors, or somewhere in the nation, or our own team, and then we pick up the phone. Yeah, so we're talking to people, as you can imagine, who then want to talk to us, or at least are open to hearing more.
Right. So how does that conversation start off? Like a lot of people that are doing that for sale by owner, they're usually looking, at least in my market, they're usually looking for that top dollar. How do you get them to change their mindset and be receptive to owner financing?
Okay, so that's the catch right there. You said it directly and indirectly. So when I speak with a seller, here's the question. Here's the script. Jack, I see you're asking, 320,000. I haven't seen your home yet, but if I can get you to that number, are you open to doing that on lease purchase or owner financing? If they say yes, tell me more. I don't care about price. I care about how far we can get the term out there and how much underlying principal pay down is there on my owner financing, all of it. On a lease purchase, we got to check the underlying mortgage and see how much principal pay down am I getting? Is this thing worth it to push it out further? Or can I go short term? Is there massive principal pay down already? Those
Mm-hmm.
the only seller we can't help is someone that says, you know what, I got a family, I need the little equity I got to go buy a house. To which I say, okay, we're not your answer. That's okay. But everybody else
Right.
who can wait, they're going to get a better net cash out with us.
Right. So when you what's the next step there then? Once they your assistants are calling these people, then they hand it off to you, and how does that conversation go? Do you go in a deeper dive and explain to the seller how this process works?
Sometimes, and here's why I say sometimes. One thing that precedes that, Jack, is I'll go through the slips. So anyone who's calling, will go through the slips. And the first thing I look at is motivation,
Mm-hmm.
because numbers are good. It's all math. That has to work. And the notes are fun to read the conversation. But I want to know, what is the motivation? Because all we're looking to do is help people. And if I know, hey, they're trying to move out of state, or they lost their job, or COVID has sidetracked them, whatever it is, I then get my mindset around, can I help them? And if I can, that's the mindset I have going to the call. All that being said, yes, I'll explain 10,000 foot view, meaning short version of lease purchase. Hey, we took over all responsibilities for maintenance and repairs. We're going to pay your underlying debt. A lot of them need that right now with COVID. Only after we have a buyer, of course. We're not taking on payments unnecessarily. To which that opens the door to me send them a pre-formatted document that we give all our students. We call it the sell doc, but all it does is explain terms, seller financing and lease purchase. So it does the work for you. You don't have to you don't have to give a seminar or a phone call. You get that off to them and you follow up with a phone call.
Sure. We were talking about, I initially asked you what it takes to essentially change the mindset or switch the mindset of the possible seller, to be open to this kind of concept. But I would probably suggest that there's a bigger gap or a bigger mindset shift for your students to see that this is even possible. How does Because it seems like, at least for me, when I was doing my first couple wholesales, it took that first one or two to finally get the light bulb to go off and to see it was possible, and then the deals seemed to come more frequently.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that work there. You're right. Like the confidence thing is a biggie. I
Hmm.
said last night on our mastermind call, and then I'll address a few of your comments, but I said last night, look, guys, your script, because we talk to our students every week on Zoom, your script in your confidence the day after you do your first deal is night and day from before your first deal, right? Because you just, now you're ready to tear it up. You can say, I just did this over on XYZ Street. And so to try to fast forward that, Jack, we do things like obviously role playing, but we also critique their live calls with them. We also do calls for them and tape ourselves so they can learn. So we're trying to fast forward that, what we call TTFD, time to first deal. If we can get them to have some short-term wins, they're not going anywhere, to your point. It just becomes easier and easier. So we got to get them in their zone as soon as possible. But you're right. It's a mind shift, especially if someone comes to our program from like the wholesaling. You said wholesalers. We have wholesalers doing $5-10 million businesses, like big businesses, like the top in the country. They're coming over and chatting with us about doing terms because of its strength in this market right now. It's thriving. And so for them, it is definitely a mind shift to say to the seller, no, I'm not looking for 60 or 70 cents on the dollar. I can give you top dollar. It's a different conversation. So it's a little bit of a mind shift, and they've got to be coachable so I can get them to that point.
Right. So, with that being said, there's another thing that people seem to like, especially when they get into real estate investing that first time. And I think I'm going to blame it on social media and infomercials. They think it's going to be a get rich quick kind of a concept. Like, let's talk a little bit about the level of work for them to find that first deal. It seems like there's been a few people that I've talked to. They put out an offer or two, and then they put all of their eggs in that one or two baskets, and that's typically not how this is going to work.
Nope. Spot on. So I'm a big proponent of talking about reality. And reality is, I say to people, I would like people who are serious and committed. And I know that if you'll commit to 36 months with blinders on, because it doesn't take that long to get a deal. But to your point, it's also not a get rich quick. And there are too many crap programs on the internet and elsewhere on TV saying, just do this and it's all rosy. And then tomorrow you'll have a deal. So no, our time to first deal runs from, we're at about 120 to 180 days for us students. We've had people break all kinds of records, 40 days, 50 days. I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about what the norm is. 120 to 180 days is the norm as far as setting up expectations. But the way we exit, as you probably recall, we're creating 3 paydays. We just trademarked this. We're creating 3 paydays per deal, and they're quite lucrative. So who cares if it took you a year? I have a student in Colorado. He's actually one of our top students now. He's a coach. It took him about 12 months to get to his first deal. Then he did 3 immediately, and all 3 are over 6 figures each profit. So was it worth it for him? He'll tell you all day long it was. He had a deal right away that fell apart, and then it took him that long to consummate 3 good ones. Well worth it.
Yeah. So you mentioned these 3 paydays. I'm sure people are wondering how that is. Like, what are you referring to when you say 3 paydays?
Sure. So payday number 1 is we exit these properties with buyers that need time. So we use a rent-to-own vehicle. And with COVID, these buyers that need time are all over the place, especially the jumbo loans. So the buyer comes in, they can't get a loan yet. They give us a non-refundable down payment, just like if they're going to buy it, right? And we look for 7 to 10. If it's a jumbo, they got to get to 20 over time, over the course of the term. That's payday 1. Payday 2 is difference between what I'm paying the seller or the underlying debt for he or her and what I'm collecting from my buyer on a monthly basis. That spreads like $300 to $1,000 a month per property. And then payday 3 is real cool because payday 3 is the markup in the property price plus any principal pay down I realize throughout the term. All 3 paydays for us as a family business, just our experience, is around 75 grand. I have in our large database of students nationally a low of 45,000, a high of 250 and up. They're quite lucrative depending on the price range where you live, where you operate.
Sure. So that being said, then what you're doing, just so that we can clarify for the people who are listening, is you get the property on terms, and you typically put a buyer in there with a down payment, with a monthly payment, which is usually greater than what you're paying the seller.
Okay. Yeah.
And then at the end, do you have like a hard stop? Like they need to buy out the contract within 5 or 10 years?
Yeah, so a couple different ways of doing this. Some is more advanced. So on a basic, if I have the property tied up in a lease purchase, and let's just say I have a 48-month term, I want to make sure when we pre-qualify the buyer, because remember, we're setting these guys up to win. We're not just winging it. So if their qualification comes back to say 28 months, 24 months, anything under my term of the seller, I'm good with that. I created a buffer and gave them a little wiggle room so I can then make sure they get their financing before my term is up. If it's a sub 2 purchase that I did, now that's pretty cool because I have no time ticking and I can put a rent to own buyer in there. And if they do what they're supposed to do, I give them incentives and I give them carrots to work towards. Then I can convert them to an owner financing. Like I can finance them for 20 or 30 years and they don't have to ever go to a bank. So that's a way to build a longer term portfolio. So there's all kinds of ways to pivot here, Jack. But in general, we want to make sure the term fits within our term so we can set them up to win.
Sure. So you just mentioned buyer qualifications. What are you doing so that what is that background check, or what are you validating there so that you can ensure that they qualify?
Yeah, good question, because this allows us to flip the model on its head. If you go on the internet and see a lot of people teaching this will say, yeah, 5% cash out. No, 2 to 5% will fail. The rest we cash out 95+%. So we bring them through a full underwriting, front end and back end housing ratios, just like an underwriter would. Not we, a third party does this. And if they need more down payment, we structure that into the plan over time. Right now with COVID and the jumbo loans, that's usually the case. These loans are getting shut down because there's not enough reserves or down, and all they need is time. They have good credit. But for some of the lower end buyers, maybe it's just credit and they just need to have credit enhancement for a year or two. So whatever the plan is, we're going to keep them on that track. It's part of their agreement. Like you have to stay on this path so you can be mortgage ready. So that's all done up front. So we don't accept them unless down payments in place, job, of course, in place, references check out, and this underwriting criteria is in place to be mortgage ready for sure.
Sure. Well, if they're already mortgage ready, is there another reason why they would take your financing over like a traditional bank?
Well, if I go out, usually they're not mortgage ready if they're starting with us, right? They're not that
Right.
day, they're not. But if I go out to the market on a property right away with owner financing, meaning I'm going to sell it on owner financing, then yeah, we'll get those buyers who just would rather not deal with a bank. I mean, think about it. I bought the building that we're in. I'm at home today, but my office building 5 minutes from here was bought on owner financing. I never had to go through the grueling underwriting of that would be a commercial underwriting process. As you know, that it's brutal with the microscope over everything you own, everything you do. Never had to do that. So when I tell a buyer, hey, I can save you that heartache if you jump through these hoops and prove to us you can handle it, and they know they don't have to go through the underwriting and pay all the fees and not have to go through that mental stress, they love it. Oh, they'd much rather go on financing. Yeah.
So just to remind everybody, make sure you head over to for that free strategy call, smartrealestatecoach.com/action to book that time. And was there any other place that you're typically pretty active on? I know a lot of people that I have on the show right now seem to be pretty active on LinkedIn, for example.
We're super active on Instagram, Facebook, but on YouTube, that's probably our most active because we post 3 videos a week very consistently. And there's hundreds of deals, Jack, on Sundays where we take a whiteboard, good, bad, or otherwise, challenges, the wins. We put it on a whiteboard and we show them how the 3 paydays work. And we lay that out so that they can understand. And there's deal after deal after deal. And so if that's something that gets them excited, that's a great place to go. Just punch in Smart Real Estate Coach on YouTube and you'll enjoy those deals.
Yeah, no, I can't say enough about your videos. So there's a lot of, it's always, you always can tell when you're dealing with a good coach because so much of this information is just freely available that you're so free to give.
Right on.
So
Yeah.
really appreciate it. So, based on some of the stuff that you're saying here, it's obvious that you spent quite a bit of time setting up the processes associated with it. I mean, and I really like the concept that you have a third party running these buyers through a credit process instead of, because I'm going to be the first to admit I'm a sucker. If I am the one who's dealing with the buyer directly, based on the scenario, I can ebb and flow a little bit. It's just as they
emotionally
your
sucked in
heartstrings a little bit, right?
Yeah. I agree. My students get caught in that sometimes, and I say, listen, this is not charity. You're doing them a favor by doing this. You're not doing them a disservice. You need to follow the protocol here. We've been stung, obviously, Jack. you do as many deals. We've done like 400 deals like this. And so you live and learn, you tweak the agreements. We've got tens of thousands of hours into these agreements that we use, just that alone. And it's because we've been through the ringer. So yeah, if you follow the system, you'll have a great experience.
Yeah. So with that, do you also have a process regarding collecting the payments so that, the buyer is sending payments someplace? Is that a third party as well? And then that third party is satisfying any kind of underlying debt and the like?
Great question. You can use a third-party escrow company to collect the monthly, dump the difference in your account, and pay the debt. Instead, we've chosen to go the Appfolio route. So we use Appfolio personally for our properties, and now we've just started instituting this with our associates. So we just took another headache away from our associates in that their properties get loaded on Appfolio as well, and their tenant buyers just pay on the portal. They don't even have to worry about it. So we are constantly trying to, I won't call it done for you because they've got to get out there and do the work, but we're trying to automate and minimize their involvement so they can go do what they're best at doing, which is getting more deals for sure.
Sure. So, getting good at those deals, you already talked a little bit about, some of the role playing and everything that your coaching team has been doing for people. Like, what are some of the other strategies? Have you been pointing to them to any other resources to prepare them for what's ahead of them?
Yep, this is big. I always knew the mental game was a big piece. Like I'm a big sports analogy person, and so I got to how important the mental game was. But as we started coaching more and more and more and high level and more deals, now I really got how big the mental game is because it's more than, it's a high percentage. Who knows what scientifically it is? So we've brought to the table people like David Nurse, who's a high performance coach for NBA. He just spoke at our event last weekend. And we brought to the table Rock Thomas to train our people. We brought Dr. Amanda. We're bringing all the mental pieces to our associates who we personally use for coaching so they can up level their game and win, because there's a lot of mental blocks. There's a lot of baggage. There's a lot of crap in everyone's life, right? It just is. And so we're bringing that to the table. Dr. Joe Vitale and I did a 31-day billionaire program where every morning they can watch a video. It's just a mental piece to set themselves up to win. And so that's a big part of what we do, not just skill sets. Because look, think about it. I can train the same course. We have the same foundational course. Okay, well, if we have the same course and people are paying the same amount to do it and people have the same thing to watch and do, why are people doing deals in 40 days and others in a year? It's the mental piece. It usually is, all things aside, all things being equal, rather. So we bring that to the table in a big way. And that's a big part of our community and why the Wicked Smart community is so close and why they progress the way they do, because we just it's like the well-rounded millionaire versus just kind of being out there, skill set wise.
So, I was hoping that, we only got a couple minutes here left, but I was hoping we could leave our listeners with a few action items that they can take on and impact their business right away, no matter where they're at in their real estate adventure.
Sure.
Like, what are some of those things that you think that they could do right now that they could implement and see some success?
Well, because this is, no matter when this show is going out, it's beginning of 21 at some point, right? So I would say make sure part of your game plan, like this week, when you hear the show, pick a piece of your game plan that you can insert some time for mental skill set development, mental development. And here's an important thing. I don't care what niche you're in. This is going to work, this mental piece. But no matter what niche you're in, if you're comfortable with that niche already, that's step one done. Step two is find someone in your niche. Okay, so I'm not so naive to think I'm the only niche. There's a bunch of good niches that I have friends in different avenues in this arena. Find someone who's already done what you want to do. It's real simple. Find them and then put the blinders on for 36 months and follow what they teach. Every single piece of our business that we want to learn about as we grow as a company, a family company, we pick trimesterly. That's how we operate on trimesters. And we say, who can we go find that is good at this? If it's scaling, let's go find that company. If it's mental development, let's go find that company. If it's profits first, let's go talk to Mike McCallum. It's like, it's always about what we want to go here. Somebody already did it. This is not rocket science. Let's go find them. So find the person for you. And all you do is pick up the phone or email them. They'll talk to you. Find out who it is and go after them, chase them down and follow them for 36 months. You'll have a great experience.
Yeah, and a lot of the people that you're talking about are very approachable,
Very.
or those people that have seen success, they're usually givers, so it's definitely, don't be shy about it. Mike McAllowitz, he's been on the show as well, and
Yeah.
that was just an email, and I happened to hit him at the right time. I mean, what a nice guy.
Yeah, Jack, here's an example. We had our Wicked Smart Kickstart event last week to kick off the new year, right? And the speaker lineup included Peter Taunton, one of the worldwide largest fitness brand ever built. He did the call from his boat in Miami, a 2-hour event. This was because he said, "How can I help you?" David Nurse, the NBA guy, he's teaching guys coming out of college or not even going to college, earn tens of millions of dollars. He came to speak. Why? We asked him to. We sent him a few shirts. We said, "It'd be really cool to have you. Would you mind?" He goes, "Sure, I'll come." These people will gladly help you if you just ask and give them some value. Help them spread the word and what they're doing.
So I wanted to make sure that I pointed out one thing too that we haven't touched on yet, Chris, is that
Sure.
you have a couple books too that everybody should really consider picking up. I know that they're both on Amazon, aren't they? I know this one
They
is for
are.
sure.
Yeah, that one you're holding got revised during COVID. It has a black stripe across the top. The new one now, it's called the revised Real Estate on Your Terms, and it's about 50% bigger. You should get one, by the way. It's coming to you. I'm pretty sure if you didn't get it yet. And the book, we can give a link here if you want. I'll give a gift to all your listeners to get the electronic version of it. It's brand new, as well as that new Rules of Real Estate as well.
Yeah, this one's great too. Well, this one has always been a favorite, and I always point people to this book because if you want to learn how to do real estate on your terms, I mean, this is a great primer. But you really got uh, this one's great because you got a lot of experts in here giving a lot of insights, and it's just a great resource.
Cool niches. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you want to give your listeners, if they just say they heard you and I talking, they get those for free electronically? And if they want the hard copy, go to Amazon, but I can give them the electronic version I'll give you a link if you want.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Just go to freesrecbook.com, freesrecbook.com.
So, and I'll make sure to include that in the show notes.
Love it.
And as promised, I promised you I was going to try to keep it to 30 minutes.
Love it.
But I got 2 minutes left. And my last question is there a question you wished I would have asked you here?
No, Jack, because maybe it's because we were on before. I think you nailed it. I would love everybody to know at the beginning of the year, you, and I'm in the same boat, you are the only thing holding you back. Let's get after it from the mental side of things and tear it up in 2021. You got a great opportunity ahead of you.
Yeah, I don't think the show could end on a better note than that. I really appreciate your time again, and I hope we can do it again sometime. Every time, you were on before, there's always some great information, actionable information to kick people off. So I really appreciate it.
Happy to do it. Thanks for having me, Jack.